The market was crowded, filled with voices, smells, and noise, but one small human boy sat quietly on the stone steps near the end of the street. His clothes were simple, patched in places, and his shoes were old. In his small hands he held something bright, a piece of red candy wrapped in shiny paper. For him, this candy was special. He had saved it all day, dreaming of the sweet taste, a rare joy in a hard life. Not far away, in the shadow of the wall, a group of alien children stood together. Their eyes were large, glowing faintly in the dim light. Their skin was pale blue, thin, almost fragile, and their clothes were even older than the boys. They whispered to each other, pointing at the candy in the boy's hand. Hunger showed in their faces, but none dared step closer. In the colony, humans and aliens rarely mixed. Adults warned their children not to trust the other side. Old stories of betrayal and fear still lived in people's hearts. And yet here were children, too young to carry the heavy hate, but too scared to break the invisible wall between them. The boy peeled back the candy wrapper slowly. He looked up and noticed the alien children watching him. Their eyes did not hide their longing. For a moment, his small hands froze. Then, without a word, he broke the candy into small, uneven pieces. His fingers trembled as he held them out. The aliens stared. No human had ever offered them anything before. They whispered among themselves, unsure. Finally, the smallest one, a girl with silver markings on her forehead, stepped forward. Her bare feet touched the dusty ground softly. She reached out with thin fingers and took a piece, her eyes never leaving the boy's face. She placed the candy in her mouth. Her eyes widened in shock at the sweetness. The others gasped. One by one, they came closer. The boy did not move away. He placed the pieces in their small hands. The aliens held them carefully like treasures. They tasted the candy and laughed, a sound so pure it turned heads in the market. Some humans frowned at the sight. Some aliens pulled their children back, but the children themselves did not care. The boy smiled shyly. He had only a tiny piece left for himself, but it was enough. Watching them enjoy the candy filled him with a warmth he had never felt before. For the first time, he saw that their smiles were just like his. A human merchant nearby muttered, "Foolish boy, don't waste your sweets on them." Another alien shook his head in disbelief, but the children ignored the angry voices. They had discovered something more powerful than the walls built by their elders. The boy licked the last bit of sweetness from his fingers. The smallest alien girl stepped closer again. She touched her chest with her hand, a gesture of thanks in her culture. Then she touched his arm lightly, leaving a faint glow from her skin. He did not pull away. Instead, he laughed softly, even though he didn't understand her gesture fully. The market moved on, people busy with their trades, their arguments, their daily survival. But in that little corner, something had changed. A bond had been born, fragile but real. The alien children stayed with the boy for a while. They did not speak his language, and he did not speak theirs, but they sat together on the steps in silence. The candy was gone, yet the memory of sharing remained like a spark waiting to grow. As the sun lowered and the shadows grew long, the alien children's parents called them back. Fear entered their eyes. They ran, looking over their shoulders. The boy watched them go, his heart strangely heavy. He wondered if he would ever see them again. He did not know that this simple act, sharing a small candy in the dust, would be remembered. He did not know that the children who tasted sweetness for the first time would never forget the boy who gave it to them. And he did not know that years later, this memory would return in ways no one could imagine. For now, he was only a child smiling in the fading light, unaware that the future of two species had just shifted because of a piece of candy. The next morning, the market looked the same. Merchants shouting, buyers bargaining, guards patrolling, but something invisible had changed. Among the children, a small story was spreading. It was not written, not shouted, only whispered from one ear to another. The human boy gave us candy. It sounded simple, almost foolish. Yet to the alien children who had tasted sweetness for the first time, it was like a miracle. They had lived their short lives with nothing but scraps, fear, and silence from humans. And then a boy, no older than them, had broken the rule. In the narrow alleys, alien kids retold the story again and again. Some added details. He smiled at us. He did not push us away. He was not afraid. Their voices were excited, as if something impossible had happened. But when adults heard the whispers, the tone was different. An alien woman carrying water shook her head. Do not trust humans. A child may be kind, but kindness does not last. A human man laughed when he overheard. Candy? That's what makes them happy? Pathetic. The boy himself did not know his small act had started a storm of whispers. He walked through the market with his usual quiet steps, looking for small chores to earn a coin. Yet every now and then he noticed eyes on him. Alien children watching from corners, human merchants frowning at his back. He felt as if he carried something unseen, though he could not explain what. That afternoon, while sitting by the water pump, the smallest alien girl with silver marks appeared again. She kept her distance, but her wide, glowing eyes fixed on him. He raised his hand slowly, not with candy this time, but just to wave. She tilted her head, then copied the gesture with a shy smile before running away. Other children saw. They giggled and whispered more. Now the story grew. He waved at her. They are friends. He is different from the others. The colony was divided into human streets and alien quarters, connected only by the market. For years, invisible walls kept them apart, but children did not see walls the same way. To them, a smile was louder than old fears, and the smile was now spreading like fire in dry grass. By evening, the boy felt something strange. While he helped an old man carry grain sacks, two alien boys followed him at a distance. They never spoke, but they watched. When he dropped a sack by mistake, they exchanged quick glances as if deciding whether to help. At the last moment, they turned away, fear still holding them back. But their hesitation showed the change already working inside them. That night in the alien quarter, the children gathered in a ruined courtyard. They passed around a small rock as if it were treasure, pretending it was candy. They laughed, remembering the taste of sweetness. Their parents scolded them. Stop playing with human tricks. Yet the children's laughter continued, soft and defiant. In the human side, the boy lay on his thin blanket in a small room. He thought of the glowing eyes, the laughter, and the shy wave of the alien girl. He did not understand why it felt so heavy in his chest. It was only candy, but deep down he knew it was more than that. Days passed and the whispers did not stop. They grew louder. Merchants complained that alien kids now lingered near the boy whenever he came to the market. Human elders warned him not to mix. Keep your sweets to yourself, one spat. You'll bring trouble. But the boy's heart was not heavy with fear. Instead, he felt lighter when he saw them. He began carrying small crumbs of bread in his pocket. Not candy, not treasure, just crumbs. And when alien children passed by, he would pretend to drop some near the steps. They would pick them up quickly, their glowing eyes shining in gratitude. The whispers grew sharper now. Some humans called him the alien's friend. Some aliens called him the strange human boy. His name was not remembered in those whispers. He was only remembered by his act. One evening, as the red sun sank behind the colony walls, the boy noticed something. On the wall near the water pump, in clumsy alien writing, someone had scratched a mark. It was the shape of a small circle with lines, a drawing of candy. The boy touched the mark with his hand and smiled. Somewhere in the shadows, alien children watched him, their giggles echoing faintly. He did not know that this symbol would travel far beyond the market walls. He did not know that the whispers soft today would one day roar across the colony like thunder. For now it was just children, candy, and laughter in the dust. But change had begun, and no wall could stop it. The boy's days in the colony were never easy. He was small, thin, and often alone. While adults ignored him, older boys sometimes saw him as an easy target. They pushed him, stole his coins, or mocked him for being poor. Normally he endured in silence, never fighting back. But this time things were different. One hot afternoon he was carrying a basket of bread scraps he had earned for helping a baker. His arms shook from the weight, but his face carried a quiet pride. Bread meant food for 2 days. As he walked down the narrow alley, 3 older boys stepped out, blocking his path. Where do you think you're going? One sneered, eyes fixed on the basket. Looks like he's got a feast, another laughed. The third shoved him roughly. Hand it over. The boy clutched the basket tightly. It's mine, he whispered, but his voice trembled. The bullies circled him like dogs around prey. The alley was empty. No adults would care. The boy braced himself to lose everything. Then a sound came, a soft rustle. From the shadows at the edge of the alley, glowing eyes appeared. At first, the bullies froze, thinking wild creatures had come. But as the shape stepped closer, it became clear alien children. The same ones who had once tasted candy. There were 5 of them standing in a line. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, their thin forms straight and steady. The smallest girl with silver markings stood at the front. She raised her chin, fearless. The bullies laughed at first. Aliens? One mocked. What do they want? But none of the aliens moved aside. They simply stood between the bullies and the boy, their silent presence heavy with meaning. The boy's heart pounded. He had not called for help, yet here they were, defending him without a word. The bullies shifted uncomfortably. The glow of the aliens' eyes unnerved them. Rumors whispered through the colony that alien children carried strange powers, even curses. No bully wanted to test if the stories were true. One boy spat on the ground. Not worth it. With a final shove at the human boy, the bullies backed away, muttering insults as they disappeared down the alley. Silence fell. The boy looked at the alien children, his basket still safe in his arms. Why did you help me?" he asked softly. He did not expect an answer. They barely shared words. The silver-marked girl stepped closer. She pointed at his chest, then at herself, then at the others. Finally, she spread her small hands wide, a gesture he did not fully understand, but the meaning reached him all the same. "You are one of us." The boy's throat tightened. He nodded, blinking back tears. From that day, things changed. The alien children began to appear whenever he was near the market. Not openly, always from the shadows, rooftops, or alleys, but their glowing eyes followed him like silent guardians. They never spoke, never asked for food, but their presence was constant. When older boys noticed and tried again to bully him, they found themselves stared down by a group of strange figures. The whispers in the colony grew louder. The aliens protect him. He must have done something. Why would they care about a human boy? Some humans were unsettled. "This is dangerous," they warned. "If alien children guard him now, what will happen when they are grown?" Some aliens were angry. "Our children should not waste their loyalty on humans," they scolded. But the children ignored their parents' fear. Loyalty, once planted, cannot be easily uprooted. The boy began to feel less alone. For the first time in his life, he walked the colony with a strange sense of safety. His steps were lighter, his shoulders less heavy. One evening, as the sky turned purple, he saw the silver-marked girl again. She crouched on a roof beam, watching him. He smiled and raised his hand. She copied the gesture. Then, to his surprise, she pulled something from her pocket, a smooth stone carved with the shape of candy. She tossed it down at his feet. The boy picked it up carefully. It was crude but beautiful, the marks uneven yet full of meaning. He held it to his chest and smiled up at her. She grinned and vanished into the shadows. That night he placed the carved stone beside his blanket as if it were treasure. He whispered to himself, they didn't forget. He had given them candy. Now they had given him something greater, protection, trust, and the promise of a bond stronger than fear. What neither the boy nor the alien children knew was that their silent alliance had already begun to stir deeper worries in the colony. Adults watched with suspicion. Leaders whispered about danger. The fragile peace between humans and aliens was built on distance, not trust. And these children, without realizing, were breaking that old balance with every silent act of loyalty. But for now, in the heart of the boy there was only gratitude. In the heart of the alien children there was only memory. And in the silent alleys of the colony, the glow of young eyes promised something no one expected. A friendship powerful enough to shake the future. The colony prepared for its yearly celebration. Every season, humans and aliens marked the same day with music, food, and lights. But though the festival was one, it was never shared. On one side of the great square, humans decorated their stalls with bright cloth and lanterns. On the other side, aliens hung glowing crystals and painted symbols on the ground. The square was divided by an invisible line, a line that everyone obeyed without question. Children were warned to stay on their side. Elders told them, do not cross, do not mix. This is how peace is kept. But to the children who had once shared candy, the line looked less like peace and more like a prison. The boy walked through the human side, eyes wide at the music and dancing. He had never owned fine clothes, so he wore the same patched shirt. He smelled roasted meat, sweetbreads, and fried nuts. His stomach growled, but he had only a single coin. He saved it carefully, not wanting to spend it too soon. On the alien side, the children he had come to know stood in silence. They watched their own people dance around glowing fire crystals, but their eyes often shifted to the boy across the square. The smallest girl with silver markings lifted her head, her eyes searching for him. When she found him in the crowd, she smiled. The boy saw her too. His heart lifted. He raised his hand slightly, a small greeting. She copied the gesture, but then adults shouted, pulling her back. "Stay with your own." The boy hesitated. The invisible line in the middle of the square felt like a wall of stone. Around him, human voices warned, "Don't look at them. Keep away. They are not your kind." But the boy remembered the alley, the glowing eyes that had stood between him and the bullies. He remembered the carved stone shaped like candy. Fear tightened his chest, but something stronger than fear pushed him forward. Slowly, step by step, he walked toward the center of the square. The music faltered as people noticed. Whispers rose like wind in tall grass. "What is he doing?" "Stay back, boy. He will shame us." On the alien side, children gasped. Some adults hissed warnings. Yet none of it stopped the silver-marked girl. She broke free from her mother's grip and ran to the edge of her side, stopping just before the line. The boy stopped too. The crowd's voices grew louder, angry and confused. The two children stared at each other across the invisible border. For a heartbeat, everything was silent. Then the boy reached into his pocket. He pulled out his single coin and the small piece of bread he had bought earlier. Slowly, in full view of both sides, he knelt and placed the bread on the ground at the very center of the line. The silver-marked girl's eyes widened. She looked at the adults behind her, angry, fearful, shouting, but she ignored them. She stepped across the line, bare feet touching forbidden ground. Gasps filled the air. She picked up the bread and held it in her hands like treasure. Then she tore it in two. She gave one half back to the boy and kept the other half for herself. The square fell silent. Humans and aliens alike stared, their festival forgotten. Children on both sides whispered in awe. For the first time, the invisible line had been crossed not by soldiers or leaders, but by two small children who remembered the taste of candy and the meaning of sharing. The boy and the girl sat down right there at the very center. They ate the bread together, ignoring the burning stares around them. Slowly, more alien children edged closer, sitting beside her. Human children, curious and bold, crept forward to sit near the boy. A circle of children formed on the line, half human, half alien, their laughter rising above the silence of shocked adults. Some humans shouted angrily, demanding guards step in. Some aliens pulled their children back, fearing punishment, but others hesitated. A few smiled quietly, as if remembering something long forgotten. The boy did not know what would happen after the festival. Perhaps he would be punished, perhaps the aliens too. But in that moment, as breadcrumbs fell to the dust, he felt stronger than ever before. For the first time, he believed the walls between their kinds were not unbreakable. The silver-marked girl touched his arm, her gesture soft but sure. In her glowing eyes there was no fear, only trust. That night, the festival ended in chaos. Adults argued, leaders shouted, guards stood uncertain. Yet the whispers that spread through the colony were not about the music or the food. They were about a human boy and an alien girl who dared to share bread in the center of the square. Whispers carried faster than fire. By morning, everyone knew the story. Some cursed it, some feared it, but some, quietly, secretly, hoped it was the beginning of something new. And for the children who had sat in the dust and laughed together, the memory would never fade. They had crossed the line once. They could do it again. The festival had ended, but the memory of that moment in the square did not fade. Everyone in the colony spoke about the boy and the alien girl who had sat together at the line. For some, it was a sign of hope. For others, it was a dangerous act that should never happen again. The boy, however, only felt the weight of new eyes on him. Wherever he walked, whispers followed. Some human children avoided him, calling him alien lover. Others spat at the ground when he passed. Alien adults looked at him with suspicion, yet their children still giggled and waved whenever they saw him. He tried to act as if life was the same. He still carried breadcrumbs in his pocket, still worked small chores for a coin. But deep inside, he knew nothing was the same anymore. The invisible wall in the colony had cracked, and cracks never heal quietly. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the alleys in red light, the boy took a shortcut home. The narrow path was silent except for his own footsteps. He carried a small cloth bag with 2 pieces of bread, the only food he had earned that day. Halfway down the alley, he heard another sound, shoes scuffing on stone. He turned and his heart sank. The same 3 bullies from before stepped out from the shadows, their faces twisted with anger. "You think you're a hero now?" the tallest sneered. "Sharing food with aliens in front of everyone," another growled. "You made us all look weak," the third spat on the ground. "Hand over the bread. Or better, we'll take it." The boy backed against the wall, clutching the bag to his chest. His heart pounded. "It's mine," he whispered, voice shaking. The bullies closed in. Their hands grabbed at him, shoving, pulling. The bread bag slipped, fell, and burst open. The loaves rolled across the dirt. One boy laughed and stomped on a piece. The human boy gasped. Hunger and anger burned in his chest, but he was too small, too weak. He braced for the worst. Then, from the far end of the alley came a sound, soft footsteps. The bullies froze as shapes moved in the red dusk. Glowing eyes appeared, 1 pair, then 2, then 5. The alien children. They stepped forward slowly, not running, not shouting, just walking with steady courage. Their small frames cast long shadows on the walls. The silver-marked girl led them, her glowing forehead shining faintly in the dim light. The bullies laughed nervously. "What do you want, freaks?" the tallest demanded. None of the aliens answered. They spread out, forming a half-circle around the boy. Their glowing eyes locked on the bullies with silent intensity. The bullies tried to act brave, but their voices wavered. Rumor said alien children could call strange powers, strange curses. No one knew if it was true, but in that moment the bullies did not want to find out. The silver-marked girl bent down, picked up the crushed bread, and handed it back to the boy. Then she stood tall, raising her chin at the bullies. Something in that silent defiance broke the courage of the older boys. They cursed, shoved one last time, and ran out of the alley, their laughter forced and shaky. The boy sank to the ground, clutching the bread to his chest. His eyes burned with tears, not only from fear but from relief. He looked at the alien children, his voice trembling. Why do you keep helping me?" The silver-marked girl touched her chest, then pointed at him, then at the others. She did not speak his language, but her meaning was clear. "You are ours. We protect you." The boy nodded slowly, his throat too tight for words. The alien children stayed a while, sitting with him in the dust. They did not need to speak. Their silence was louder than any words. But somewhere above the alley, hidden eyes were watching. A human guard had seen everything. He narrowed his eyes, troubled by what he had witnessed. Later he would tell others. The aliens defend that boy as if he belongs to them. By the next morning, the whispers in the colony had changed again. Not only about candy, not only about the festival. Now they spoke of shadows in the alley, where alien children had faced down human bullies. Some humans were furious. "This is the beginning of rebellion," they warned. "If alien children protect one human boy, what happens when they grow up?" Some aliens were uneasy too. "Our children will bring trouble upon us," they muttered. Their bond with the human will break everything. But the children themselves did not care. In their hearts, something stronger than fear had taken root. And in the boy's heart, a truth had grown. He was no longer alone. The alley was dark, but for him, it now held light from glowing eyes that had chosen to stand by his side. The whispers had grown too loud to ignore. In every corner of the colony, people spoke of the human boy and the alien children. Some called it foolishness. Others called it danger. But no one could deny that something had changed. The leaders of the colony finally gathered. On one side sat the Human Council, stern men and women in heavy coats, their eyes sharp with suspicion. On the other side sat the alien elders, tall, thin beings with glowing eyes dimmed by age, their foreheads marked with old symbols of authority. They met in the Great Hall, a cold place built of stone where decisions were made in whispers that shaped many lives. "The matter is small," one human counselor said. "It is only children playing. But it stirs unrest among our people. Small matters become large fires," another warned. "Already human children copy the boy. They laugh with alien children. They share food. The line is fading." The alien elders shifted uneasily. One spoke in a deep, slow voice. "Our children say the human boys showed them kindness. We punish them for nothing but trust. Are we to fear a child with candy?" The human counselor slammed his hand on the table. "Do not be naive. If your young ones grow loyal to humans, What happens when they are grown? Will they serve us or betray us? Silence fell. The word betray hung in the air like smoke. The boy, unaware of the meeting, sat outside the hall with the alien children. He had not been invited, yet everyone knew the council's choice would shape his life. The silver-marked girl sat beside him, her small hand brushing against his arm in silent comfort. Her glowing eyes looked at him with trust, but even she did not know what the council would decide. Inside, the arguments continued. Exile the boy, one human demanded. Send him away. Let him live beyond the colony walls. Without him, this strange bond will fade. No, an alien elder replied firmly. Exile a child and you create a martyr. The story will grow louder. Already our young whisper his name with respect. Another human leaned forward. Then separate them. Ban the alien children from the market. Keep them away from the boy. Walls must be rebuilt before they crumble. But an alien elder shook her head. We have built walls for years, and what has it brought us? Fear, silence, division. And yet a boy's single act of kindness brings more hope than all our councils combined. The hall erupted in anger. Voices clashed, human against alien, fear against hope. The debate stretched on until night. At last, the human leader raised his hand. His voice was calm but heavy. We cannot ignore this. The bond between the boy and the alien children is dangerous, but punishing them may be more dangerous still. If we strike, we may break the fragile peace. If we do nothing, we risk losing control. The alien elder across the table nodded slowly. Then we face a choice not of punishment, but of vision. Do we fear the future, or do we shape it? The decision was delayed, but the message spread. The council watched, and their patience was thin. That night, the boy returned home with the carved candy stone the alien girl had given him. He placed it by his blanket and whispered, They are deciding about us. His chest felt heavy, but not with fear, more with a strange responsibility he did not fully understand. Outside, the alien children gathered in silence. They had heard rumors of exile, of separation, of punishment. The silver-marked girl lifted her chin. We will not leave him, she whispered in her own tongue. The others nodded. In the shadows of the colony, more human children and alien children began to meet quietly. They shared crumbs of food, played with stones, and drew candy shapes on the walls. The boy's kindness had already spread too far. It could not be erased by council debates, but the leaders did not see it that way. In their eyes, the boy was no longer just a child. He had become a symbol. Symbols could unite, but they could also divide. The council's choice was still undecided. But one truth was clear. The future of the colony now rested not in the hands of generals or guards, but in the memory of candy shared in the dust, and the boy, small and unaware, carried that weight with every step he took. Years passed. The colony changed, its streets older, its people wearier, but one story never faded. The story of a human boy who once shared candy with alien children in the dust. The boy was no longer small. He had grown taller, his shoulders broader, his face sharper with age. His clothes were still plain, but his eyes carried the weight of memories that most adults tried to forget. He had learned to work harder, to survive longer. Yet even as a man, he still kept the carved stone shaped like candy by his side, worn smooth from years of touch. The alien children had grown too. No longer fragile, they had become strong young men and women, their glowing eyes brighter than ever. The silver-marked girl, once shy and thin, now stood tall as a leader among her people. Her voice carried respect. When she spoke, others listened, and when she remembered, she always remembered him. The colony had not grown kinder with time. Tension still lived in the air. Humans and aliens still distrusted one another. But whenever conflict threatened to spark into violence, a whisper rose among the young. Remember the candy. One evening, the boy, now a man, walked through the marketplace. His steps were calm, but he noticed something strange. The crowd was split again. Humans on one side, aliens on the other. At the center, guards stood tense, weapons ready. A fight had almost begun. A human merchant had accused an alien trader of stealing. Voices shouted. Children cried. The fragile piece shook like glass about to break. The man stepped forward. His heart raced, but he did not hesitate. He walked to the center, right where the invisible line had always been. The guards raised their hands, warning him back. But he ignored them. Then from the alien side came a voice, steady, strong, familiar. The silver-marked girl, now a young leader, stepped forward too. Her glowing eyes locked on his. For a long moment, the entire colony fell silent. Without a word, the man reached into his pocket. He carried no sweets anymore, no treasure to share. But he carried the carved candy stone, worn and precious. Slowly, he lifted it high for all to see. Gasps filled the air. The younger ones recognized it immediately. The symbol of their whispers. The story of their childhood. The alien leader smiled faintly. She placed her hand on her chest, then pointed at him. The same gesture from years ago. Her voice rang out, clear enough for both sides to hear. Once he shared with us when no one else would. That is why we never forgot. That is why we stand here now. The man's chest tightened, but he raised his voice too. We are not enemies. We never were. If children could see it, why can't we? The words cut through the tension like a blade. For a long breath, no one moved. Guards shifted nervously. Elders frowned. But in the crowd, children, human and alien, began to clap softly. Then louder. Then laughter rose, breaking the silence. The fight dissolved. The guards lowered their weapons, unsure of what had just happened. The elders whispered to one another, shaken. But the people, the ordinary people, had seen something greater than fear. They had seen proof of trust that survived years. From that day, the story of the candy was no longer just a whisper. It became a tale told in homes, in schools, in markets. The young repeated it proudly, and even the old began to soften when they heard it again and again. The human boy's simple act had grown into a memory too strong to erase. It became a symbol of peace in a colony that had known only walls. And whenever fear tried to return, someone would always ask, "Do you remember the candy?" The man never thought of himself as a hero. He still worked with his hands, lived in a small room, and ate plain bread. But wherever he went, glowing eyes followed him with respect. The alien leader never called him savior. She called him friend. Late at night, when the market was quiet and the stars filled the sky, he sometimes sat on the same stone steps where it all began. He would take out the carved candy stone, hold it in his palm, and smile. For him, it had never been about candy. It had been about seeing hunger in other children's eyes and choosing kindness over fear. But for the colony, it had become something far greater. It had become a memory that shaped the future, a candy remembered forever.